Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ushma Tyagi and I shall be your host today. In the first episode of this mini series of Dell Technologies webinars powered by Strategic Solutions, we will engage with IT and digital leaders and solution experts for a better appreciation of what goes into successful collaboration across modern manufacturing and engineering services environments. Accordingly, for the first episode today, our webinar theme is Manufacturing and Engineering Excellence in Industry 4.0 Settings. A growing need for Indian industry has been agility, with manufacturers looking at a paradigm shift with a gradual decentralization of production control, thus simplifying the process of manufacturing by itself. Developments that constitute a reversion of existing production logic. The manufacturing sector today seeks to transform entire value chains by transforming them into adaptive nerve centers of enterprises. Over the next 1 hour or so, you can expect to hear IT leaders and workspace collaboration experts share their insights and experiences from real life case studies, deploying modern, productivity boosting solutions powered by Dell workstations. So now, without further ado, I hand you over to Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic Solutions, to take the floor and introduce our guest speakers today. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome to this episode. In this particular episode, I, your host Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer at Strategic, I'm going to be in conversation with eminent business and industry leaders on the whole concept of manufacturing and engineering excellence. This concept assumes significant proportions today because of the growing need for Indian industry for a very important critical aspect called agility, with manufacturers and engineering design organizations really looking at a paradigm shift with a gradual decentralization of production control, thus giving them the ability to simplify the process of manufacturing by itself. Developments that constitute a reverse and a reversion really of existing production logic and engineering logic. The manufacturing and the engineering sectors today seek to transform entire value chains by transforming them into adaptive nerve centers of enterprises. Enter the humble workstation. And to join me in conversation today, please put your hands together to welcome none other than very, very dear friends from the industry, Alka Siddiqui, India Head Digital Technologies, Collins Aerospace. Alka, welcome and we're delighted to have you.
Thank you, Arjun. Look forward for the discussion today.
And Dhaval Pandya, Chief Information Officer and Chief Digital Officer, GSW Paints Private Limited. Dhaval, grateful and delighted that you could join us.
Always a pleasure, Arjun, always.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, folks, I'm directly going to jump into it because the next half an hour promises to be truly, truly exciting. Is this whole concept of the industry resurgence, industry revival, and industry acceleration by themselves will be powered by organization ability and organizational ability to drive hyper competitiveness in what is clearly a very hyper competitive market. Now, if that were to be the case, how important is bespoke design and bespoke products and services and solutions, which is the whole concept of engineering design, creating better niche products and services? How important is that going to be towards driving or towards accelerating the whole concepts of revival? Alka, with your permission, if I may come to you, what are your opening views?
So to begin with, I would say the pandemic has really changed the overall global business canvas, and the way it has impacted, it's really made us, fundamentally look at a change in the operating models, the consumer behaviors, interactions, and the way we have been working so far. In a way, it has actually accelerated the digital transformation. But having said that, some of the key enablers from a manufacturing perspective, especially looking at design being a very important feature, is the whole segue of accelerated digital transformation, bringing to an important point of a highly secured infrastructure which is secured and scalable, as well as should be able to really have the high end computing environment where all the machines can talk to each other. The AI/ML is functioning in a great way. So I think design itself is going to play a huge role, and infrastructure backing with high performing machines would be something to look at critically. And overall, other than digital transformation, again, we're also looking at redesigning the entire workspace for individual when the whole way of working has changed. So when we redesign the workspace, and having hotspots and having high end processing units to be able to have a digital platform or a command center created where all of the machines are talking to each other, that kind of an environment. And then a literal focus on employees well-being, again, looking into the future workspace and employees working from home. I think these would be the critical factors in terms of how we would be looking at from a manufacturing perspective.
Very interesting, because I picked up a few very, very interesting points, and I'm going to take that to Dhaval. Dhaval, the whole concepts of process design, product design, they've fairly gone through a sea change in terms of traditional mindsets that we may have had even about 18 to 24 months back. But that's now changed because the technology that enables us to kind of take forward and go forward leaps and bounds has also been enhanced. How are you at JSW looking at the whole paradigm shift in mindsets of process design and engineering design by themselves? Because you're in the core business of paints, just powder physics at its very elemental level. It's fascinating. Please, we'd really like to hear you, Dhaval Pandya.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Arjun. And I couldn't agree with Alka more and with her opening remarks. But before I delve into the entire technology aspect of it, I would just like to, spend maybe a couple of minutes to say what is it that is driving this, or what is it that is actually forcing us, if I may use the terminology, to look at things differently. So while the pandemic has been there, industry has always been, the B2C space has always been competitive. And I like the terminology you use. You said it's hyper competitive now. It's fiercer than ever before. Uh, so the guiding factor behind that is also, to a large extent, it's the economics. So with a drop coming in the business cycle due to the pandemic, what has happened is that it has also put the consumer a lot of pressure on the consumer's pocket. So what it means is that the disposable income has also gone down a notch. So he's being a lot more conservative and choosy where that buck is being spent. What it translates into is that the competitiveness is now hyper competitiveness, because we have to now fight so much more for the wallet share than we had to ever before. And the consumer will not give you that rupee till he gets what he wants. So like, if I were to say Mera wala pink, he will not buy anything else unless and until he gets that Mera wala pink. Now for me as a technologist, it's all about how do I make that journey of choosing Mera wala pink easier. How do I make that journey of making that paint, that Mera wala pink, easier? And how do I make that journey of making it available to him at his doorstep, the same Mera wala pink which he chose earlier? So, and whenever it is about either deriving efficiencies from cycle time, or it is about, say, reducing cost, improving productivity, technology has a say. There is absolutely no doubt about that. So it's no longer, if I may say, it's no longer about either operational excellence or customer excellence. It's now about identifying the technology which is able to optimize and give you that right balance between operational excellence and customer excellence. And that's where some of the things which Alka spoke about, being connected machines, it's no longer connected machines, it's connected stakeholders. So how do I basically not just identify the important information, but also how do I utilize that information? So that's where some of the facets like artificial intelligence and machine learning, etc., come into picture. So for example, if you spoke about JSW in particular, so we have recently launched an app on the Play Store, which is Color Vista. Color Vista Touch. If you look it up, it's an augmented reality based color visualizer app. So what it would do is basically it will not only help you look at what are the paints that we are offering, but it will also do two other things. It will help you visualize your home with the paint that we have to offer.
Interesting.
So, for example, if you have three shades in your palette, you can actually apply it in a live environment and look at how it looks with your decor. And you can then just connect with the company saying that, okay, this is my choice and how do I make it available? That's what I was talking about being connected. Second, it will do is that, okay, we have 1808 shades to offer. Still, if you don't like one of those and you have something called Mera Wala Pink, please tell us about Mera Wala Pink and we will make that Mera Wala Pink available to you. So it's all technology that drives this, Arjun.
So my question therefore, now that we've established the fact that technology is playing a center stage role in enabling better operating model efficiencies, better consumer experience, the whole concepts of distributed and partner ecosystems increasingly, I come to the central focal point of design. Now, for a long, long time, design, and please, I'm very happy to be vehemently opposed to this, but I would still like to kind of place this. The whole concept of design has it perhaps not been given the kind of importance from the point of view of the workstation. For example, an immensely talented and intelligent, skilled team of design practitioners sitting and creating the Mera Wala pink, or Dhaval in this case, the absolutely brilliant color of your t-shirt, Mera Wala blue, really. And Alka, in your case, really, where you come from, Collins Aerospace, precision guided munitions, the war systems of tomorrow and day after, the future soldier. Designing all of these also require the right technology to be enabled to the teams that are doing this. So, Alka, I come to you really. How centrally focal does the workstation, and today's workstations are very, very different from the workstations of the past. How important is that at an elemental level towards a strategy of creating design centric manufacturing and engineering excellence? Alka Siddiqui.
Starting from what Dhaval really said, and it really struck me because I think that's kind of the crux for all of these connected environments across, manufacturing these days is connected customers, connected stakeholders, and the entire digital platform command center from which all of these connections are made. I think that's become really critical. So probably I'm going to talk a little bit around the industry 4.0, which we have been looking at implementing at Collins Aerospace. And that's kind of something which is making us look at various designs around the precision of the design in the overall connected workspace, especially in the factory setup in manufacturing. So let's say there are different aircraft spare parts or aircraft parts which are being manufactured in all of the industries. So having sensors on each one of those parts is something which is kind of a part of the really high precision design, to your point, Arjun, in our industry 4.0 initiative. And it's all through Internet of Things, IoT, which is widely adopted at this point. And IoT is making all of these devices talk to each other, whether it is industrial sensors now to home controls. We're wearing the smartphone, and very clearly Gartner has already estimated that there will be about 20 billion of these connected devices by 2020, up from a 8.4 billion. So look at how all of these manufacturing is getting benefited from that kind of IoT platform, and the sheer volume of these IoT devices and the data they produce again derives a need for greater capacity, and then increased reliability and the lower latency of all the wireless networks, because that's kind of going to be giving a precision design, a scalable design, which can be used at a war level in terms of whether it's life critical or aircraft parts and things like that. So the next gen mobile network technology will deliver these huge improvements in the performance. And I would say the third essential infrastructure enabler has been the edge computing. And you touched upon it as well, Arjun, in terms of connected workspace. So a variety of large amount of data being produced by all of these millions of IoT devices are getting captured, stored, processed by these billions of connected devices. And the processing, in terms of how this processing is being done using machine learning for all the IoT derived data, that's enormous. And the only way you can do that is really high end machines with high precision design, with really capable analytical processing and machine learning. So I think
I
overall these are the key enablers.
found that very fascinating because, Dhaval, I'm going to bring that directly to you. The whole concept of, obviously, there's data and there's this explosion of data, and the volumes of data that are available to us is truly unprecedented. But equally, it requires a convergence of your localized machine and human capital to come together, process the data, and then be able to visualize. Like you, I actually wrote this down because we're due for a whitewash sometime early next year. So I am going to tap you at that particular point in time. 818 shades. Now, sure, the human mind may be capable of looking at lots of shades, but really, it is your ability to visualize through machine enabled processing the 818 shades today. And like you're saying, customization available for so many more shades that we wouldn't be able to fathom amongst the three of us right now. How central and okay, in your view, what is the centrality of precision machines today, the localized machines, to be able to enable this kind of acceleration of even visualization of industry?
So I would like to take that in the backdrop of the same conversation that you were having earlier. Let's talk about let's talk about the workstation of the future, right? How it changes. For
That's
example,
a good term, actually.
uh,
Write that down, the workstation of the future.
we were just talking about data, right? On an average, what would be your guess? What is the number of IP addresses that an average home has? Say even in the most advanced countries today. Take a guess. Would it be a single digit number? Would it be a double digit number? What would it be?
I'd rather not hazard a guess because I don't want to be completely off.
Okay, so it acts at best it's about at a best it's about say 5 to 6. 3 to 5 years from now, that number is going to be somewhere in the region of 35 to 40.
Wow.
So if that's what a study predicts, that an average home of the future will have close to 35 to 40 IP addresses, which means 35 to 40 devices capable of consistently communicating with on the internet. And then you can just think about the proliferation of the data that it will cause. Now if this is going to be the home of the future, then the workstation of the future, which is more of a place defined and designed to create innovations, just think about the complexity that it would look at. Now if we were to break down this complex problem, and like again going back to my love for frameworks, I would like to look at it through say three levers. What is its impact, or what is the impact that it is having on the people? What is the impact that it is having on the processes, like you were just mentioning? And what is the impact that it is going to have on the, or what is the impact that the technology is then going to have on the people and the processes? So you talk about people. We right now in the middle of an unforeseen event. It's once in a maybe a millennium kind of an event. uh, and everyone who thought that working from home is not possible, they have been working from home for close to a year now, right?
Yeah,
So
now.
definitely it's more about how people adapt to the new ways of working. And that's where what you started by alluding, and what Alka rightly picked on, was collaboration. What is going to be the level of collaboration expected? It's no longer about working in silos. It's not about making a piece of equipment and passing it to the next workstation, or looking at it like an assembly line. It's more about collaboratively how you can basically develop the design that will enable the business of the future, that will enable the ways of living of the future. So that's where collaboration comes into the picture, to as far as people is concerned. Then you talk about processes, and I just said you can no longer look at things in silos. The processes have to be built to identify the hooks, what are the important data points, and that's where the importance of the consumer journey comes in the picture. I have to know my consumer like the back of my hand and have to know what is the kind of journeys he's capable of taking, not today, maybe 3 years from now, and then look at processes which will support those operations maybe 3 years from now. And lastly, the technology. And both the people and the processes, you cannot have people collaborating and you cannot have processes looking at future KPIs unless and until you have the right technology to support it. So if I talk about say a paint manufacturing process, and if I'm talking about reducing the time to market for developing a paint which is no longer a part of my shade card or was never a part of my shade card, it's that mera wala pink which is not there. So how do I have the technology which will be able to interpret as to what is going to be the guiding factor for me to be number one, to be able to develop that paint, and number two, to be able to deliver it at scale, and number three, to be able to deliver it within the time that I want it to be available. Otherwise, the consumer is gone, and like I said, he only has a rupee to spend.
True.
So that's where technologies which cut down on the cycle time and improve the productivity, something like computer vision, for example, it's playing a huge role in quality today, and it's taking away a lot of manual effort, and not only reducing the manual effort but also reducing the margin of errors. And it becomes extremely important in engineering driven industries, what Alka caters to, where the margin for error is practically nil.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about bodiless soldiers today, and what happens if the soldier just shoots the wrong person, right? You cannot have that, and you just can't afford that. So it's only going to be, and we have to rely on technology. It will make its mistakes, but and we will have to allow it to make its mistakes, but it's important to be able to learn from those mistakes. So for example, if I'm able to deliver a paint today in 10 hours, I shouldn't be taking 10 hours the next time I'm developing a new paint. That learning has to come in, and it has to give me at least a 15 to 20% benefit or efficiency over my previous iteration. So that's how it's going to be impactful, and that's how we will be able to make the change that we are talking about, to be able to, for the new ways of working.
Outstanding, outstanding. Very, very powerfully articulated, Dhaval, because Alka, we've got about 10 minutes left to this segment within the episode. And I do know you've got hard stops. But I'm going to come to you on behalf of this wonderful audience that's listening in to us and tuning in today to ask you something very, very important. If the fact and this conversation, this dialogue amongst the three of us has mostly established the centrality of technology as not just an enabler, but also as an accelerating agent, as a catalyzing agent. My question to you, Alka Siddiqui, is in the backdrop of high end machines, high end workstations that allow us to reimagine the future. What is your essential guidance to our audience on how to start this complex journey of accelerating workstation and machine modernization? How would you advise them to really start this journey, Alka Siddiqui?
So couple of things here in terms of accelerating the entire journey here would be really to really look at the redesigning the entire workspace to begin with. We very clearly know that we can never go back to what we were at 2019.
Yeah, we should never make that mistake of wanting to go back to our traditional methods for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's that's something which is unquestionable right now. And looking into the future, the first thing which comes to mind, and that's what has made us now think differently in all different angles. So when it comes to accelerating, the entire workspace design with all the precision machines and all of that, I think the first thing is how does that enable the acceleration of digital um, transformation. So just giving an example here, look at the finance industry. This is like pre-pandemic era, and now in between all of that pandemic and now, I think very clearly we could see that how the entire platform, digital platforms transformation got accelerated, where now the customers are able to do the internet banking or all of the digital banking completely without having banks completely closed for a few days. So you have actually come out of the brick and mortar concept onto digital platforms. And I think the banks were the one of the best examples, other than the key e-commerce, which we saw during this time. So clearly tells us that the entire precision workspace and redesigning the whole concept is going to be the way to move forward. We at Collins Aerospace are really looking at how do we design our facilities in a way that we have more of hotspots, having a central command center connected to all of the machines, and the same for the manufacturing units and stuff like that, and centered, I would say, on more on employee wellness and the workforce development, other than all of these themes around redesigning the workspace. So I think with all of this crisis, we have learned to be more resilient, and it's going to be all, I would say, work anywhere, live anywhere, kind of a concept with all digital environment. So that's kind of how we are looking at things now.
And Nikhil, I want to take that to you also, Dhaval. Same question, really. Beg your pardon, of the future is going to require us to reimagine our today also. And the reimagination of today also starts with the modernization and the digitalization of the device that I'm working on. Today, for example, each of us have high-end, fairly high-end devices that allows us to collaborate in such seamless fashion. But as we move into a more complex tomorrow, like you yourself said, complex purchase decisions, and so on and so forth. What is your essential guidance to organizations in the engineering and manufacturing space on how to reimagine the whole concepts of modernization and digitalization on the device where the reimagination is happening? I know that sounds esoteric, but I couldn't figure out a better way of putting it.
So I think I would, if I were to define it as a journey, I would say it would be about, say, 3 or 4 basic steps that need to be taken care of. And while it may sound, awfully simple, it's always the simple things that we tend to miss out on. So first things first is that take cognizance of the fact that it is required, right? Call it happy realization, and please don't push it to tomorrow. The later you are in the journey, the more of catching up you will have to do. And in certain industries, especially in the B2C space, it could actually mean that the delayed decision is fatal, right? You may have lost the customer for good,
You lost your
and regaining the customer is always going to be so much more difficult and expensive, right? So take realization of the fact that you need to adopt to the new way of working, and you may need to relook at the way you're working today. Number two is, please break or just break the myth which says that either it is too complex or too costly, right? There are enough and more frameworks and methodologies available today to tell you what is the way to go about it. Number one. Number two, there are enough and more levers of change available. For example, cloud computing or edge computing that is available today. It makes me develop or adopt something so much more faster. DevOps, it makes me take things to market so much more faster. But it's all about identifying the right levers available and adopting them. And number three, please don't take a one size fits all approach. Try to break it down either functionally or by line of business, or even better by the end consumer as per the market segment. So for example, if I talk about paints, I would like to look at it in 3 buckets very clearly. One would be my operational excellence, one would be my channel excellence, and third would be my consumer excellence. And then identify as to what is the most important and very critical. Please pilot, especially for operational excellence, right? For example, if I have 7 assembly lines, pilot it for one. That's what will tell you that what are the important data points. You can put sensors all you want, you can put as many sensors as you like, and then you'll end up with a plethora of data that you will really struggle to make sense with. So please pilot it, let it run for a while, and identify what really matters to the stakeholder of that particular stream. For example, if I'm talking about an operational excellence, what is important if I were to bring up the productivity? What is important if I have to reduce the downtime? What is important if I have to reduce the maintenance time? what is important if you have to redesign and reconfigure a particular piece of equipment. That
Indeed.
is the kind of data that you need to capture. When it comes to consumer, does consumer really want more options? For example, when we did this study, if you're talking about choosing a shade of color, we think that the more the shades of color, the more the chances that a customer will end up buying something. It's contrary. The customer actually ends up confusing himself and he's not able to identify what he needs. But
Indeed.
if you were to tell him that, okay, these are the 3 or 5 colors that suit the best as per the decor of your house, as per your personality, as per the lighting conditions, and not just say that, but simulate and show it, then the cycle time of closing the particular deal is much, much smaller. So it's all about piloting, and then don't hesitate to ramp up. And these things, they have a gestation period of their own, and especially in, say, engineering or complex manufacturing industries, they will take time to give you the returns that you're expecting, and you will have to live with them for and run them for a while. You will also need to be able to identify the right data sciences that matter. You for example, is seasonality something that impacts your industry?
Indeed.
Then you should have data sciences which are working around seasonality. Is the temperature or the weather something, for example, does it impact the choice of paint, whether it's a hotter region or whether it's a colder region, or it's a rainy region? Then you have to factor those into the data sciences and be able to identify which levers of data need to be picked up for the sciences, and what is the output that you're expecting, and then see if it matches up to the scale.
That is so true. That is so indeed well put. Way, way grateful. But I do have a view on the clock, Alka and Dhaval. That pretty much is where what we have time for. But I am going to sneak in one last question, and I will come to you both with the same question. Dhaval Pandya, one prediction. You've got 30 seconds. One prediction for the workstation of the future, and I have usurped that particular one. One large prediction for the workstation of the future in the context of accelerating manufacturing and engineering excellence that you particularly are very convinced about or believe in.
It will be virtual and remote.
Standing Alka Siddiqui, a prediction of the workstation of the future in the backdrop of engineering and manufacturing excellence and its acceleration.
Virtual, I would say virtual, remote, and also fueled by the universal and high speed connectivity. Very importantly, cross border collaboration with very strong data security standards.
Standing ladies and gentlemen, that was Alka Siddiqui and Dhaval Pandya in dialogue with me, your host Arjun Vishwanathan. Uh, Dhaval, Alka, I couldn't be grateful adequately. It has been nothing short of a delight being in dialogue with you. Thank you so much for making time. We're truly, truly happy that you could make it today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
The pleasure's all ours. Thanks a
Thank you.
lot, Arjun.
And to the audience, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you, Arjun, for engaging our guests in an absorbing panel discussion on their experiences with furthering their workspace collaboration journey with Dell Workstation Solutions. Excellent takeaways for IT and digital transformation leaders from that insightful panel discussion, I must say. Dear delegates, do remember to fill out the feedback form at the end of today's webinar episode. Your feedback is invaluable as it helps us improve the content, structure, and presentation of our webinars and virtual conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is a fireside chat with a senior executive from our partners, Dell Technologies. In keeping with the theme of today's episode, Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer Strategic, will be engaging in a conversation with Mr. Suhas Pingat, Brand Manager, Precision Workstations at Dell Technologies India. In this chat, Mr. Vishwanathan will engage Mr. Pingat in a discussion on the key business benefits an organization can leverage by deploying state-of-the-art workspace solutions to speed up product design and development, balance between lean manufacturing processes and fail-safe supply chains, and achieve analytics and service excellence. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan. And to take this very, very fascinating narrative forward, I'm now going to be in dialogue with Suhas Pingat, Brand Manager Precision at Dell Technologies. Suhas, welcome. Delighted that you could join us today.
Thank you, Arjun. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
So now we've got about 30 minutes to have and take this discussion forward. So I'm directly kind of going to jump into it. From the point of view that we just heard what Alka and Dhawal kind of very, very clearly and very powerfully articulated about the whole impact of design on pretty much everything to do with the entire value chain of business strategy. And it's no secret that design today is a source of competitive advantage and significant business value inflection. How, in your view at Dell Technologies with precision, do you kind of see that being orchestrated over the life cycle? So,
Okay, thanks, Arjun. Yes, I did hear, and I think it is very, very important to understand that product design was the base, is the base for manufacturing industries as we move ahead, and specifically in manufacturing. Uh, it has changed dynamically in the last, let's say, 4 to 5 years or so because of the nature of competitiveness that is there in the market. Today, the consumer is the most important aspect of everything and anything that happens in the manufacturing vertical. Because you will not have anything that comes out of, let's say, an industrial equipment machinery that is not really going to be looking good, besides the fact that it performs good as well. Right? Just give me an example. So the consumer first aspect is changing everywhere. And we've seen that in automotive. We've seen the levels of product design, the levels of efficiency, and the levels of uh, automation that is coming in is seriously very, very interesting, and things will change dynamically as you move on. So that's one aspect for sure. Now, at Dell, and specifically when we look at the precision portfolio, and when we say that these are the workstations that are meant for designers, that are meant for industrial stylists, and so on and so forth, we also have realized that the product performance, the scalability, the availability, and the technology that is associated with it has changed drastically. Quite a
indeed.
few things have changed in the sense is that the change may have happened because of technology that it goes in, the change may happen because the graphics capability that goes in, and so on and so forth. So I'll not dwell so much into that. But what we've realized is today customers are demanding more and more efficiency and speeds. And why are they demanding this much? It's because, let's say, a typical project, maybe 5, 6 years earlier, would have taken about, let's say, a year to complete. I'm just giving an example. Customers today do not want to wait for a year. Okay. You will
Indeed.
see a lot many improvements and changes even happening in a consumer durable good. See, I'm just giving this example because I go back to this. A consumer durable like a mixer grinder, for example, right? A decade back, it was a standard design. Nothing much changed in it, and it used to be very, very loud. Now look at then that is changing. The product design has changed. It's become more aesthetic looking. It's performing efficiently. It's making less noise. So all these things are changing, and this change is coming in because the consumer is first. And the same way, at Dell, we believe that we need to give that technology at the fingertips of that particular designer, or the industrial designer, or that automated 3D modeler, because their job is to create. Their job is not to mull, sit a cup of coffee and say, okay, fine, that design is going to take time to change, right? And so the hardware aspect is changing, and it is also moving up significantly. More than that, whatever is running on that hardware, which is basically the software tool that the engineer uses to make product design, is changed supremely. In the sense is that you not only do product design, you also do simulation on the fly. To earlier, the simulation aspect of any product or a component used to be too very crude in terms of what you want to see. Today, there is a lot of graphics that is going in, so it is becoming easier even for the designer or the 3D modeler or the analysis guy to understand where is the problem lying. So you've seen this changing, and so today that 1 year probably has come down to 6, right? And digital transformation, which has been the narrative, has gained, of course, because of this post-pandemic era. Uh, that digital transformation is also affecting the entire product design, the R&D of a manufacturing setup. They have now come to realize that everything that has to be delivered has to come from their department.
Very,
Everybody else works on it.
very,
That's
very.
that's what I feel.
So, as I am going to take this forward then by asking you with precision, for example,
Hmm.
how do you kind of orchestrate this very seamless convergence of human capital and AI powered technologies such as
Hmm.
precision, as it were?
Right.
How do you see that coming together? Because it's also equally true that the physical office space today is fairly decomposed.
Right.
And collaboration today is happening in a distributed
Hmm.
geographies of thoughts. Now, when all of this comes together, how does precision help converge with human capital, the workforce at the center of design, while being also able to drive collaboration seamlessly?
Absolutely. There are a few things that you brought out wonderfully. I'll touch upon the collaboration aspect first. Okay. Uh, Now, why collaboration is gaining more momentum is because teams are now seriously distributed, right? And it is, see, when I get back to a situation where most of the users today traditionally have moved from desktops to notebooks and so on and so forth, work from home has happened, remote working has happened, fine. But as far as the actual engineer or a designer is concerned, not many have seriously gone ahead and done that change for obvious reasons. Okay? There could be the nature of computing power which is required and many other things, okay, which may not be currently available to a certain extent in a mobile transformation. But when you're looking at collaboration, today the teams are separate. Now, that collaboration is key. That is something that is going to change. Okay, that's one point that has still not yet happened at the pace that it should have happened.
It should have.
Yeah. Second point, the where do we get technologies together and how the human skills are actually utilized with precision? It is very, very important to understand that we constantly evolve and change the way we make our systems, right? We mentioned that AI is a technology. AI is all across, and why not we as a precision would implement AI? So, for example, any software that is being utilized on precision, and these are very complex softwares in nature, right? It could be design, analysis, and visualization. It is not the job of that particular user to check how the system is performing. It is a
True.
job of the system, it is a job of the OEM to ensure that it performs well and gives that excellent optimization to the software that is being used. So we use that very, very clearly. We have a software called Dell Optimizer for Precision. It is an AI based tool. So any software that runs on the precision and is actually automatically going to be optimized for the usage for the user. So that saves, that gives a piece of time, and in fact ensures that the design cycle or the time taken is reduced drastically. Now there are new technologies that are coming into play, which of course is an industrial industry way. I would not like to comment on that, but what I see, there are two aspects of this. One is collaboration, which is very, very important and has to be taken ahead. And the second aspect of this is collaboration using new visualization tools.
Indeed.
How would I like to collaborate with, let's say, four team members who are essentially designing or making, modeling a component which has got four different phases? Do I collaborate using normal tools like a standard Zoom call or any other thing, or do I collaborate using VR? Right? So
So
VR makes it a very good way of creating a collaborative effort in the design workflow and the experience. Now that is what I was saying is yet to pick up, but the way things are progressing, I think organizations will start seeing value in it. And if they start seeing value in it and they get into new mediums like virtual reality, it will definitely create a more immersive experience from a design perspective. And that's where we are much capable in addressing these challenges that will come up with the manufacturing industry.
very powerfully articulated, Suhas, but I must ask you also is that one of the pillars or one of the tenets of industrial revival, industrial resurgence, and then onwards to an acceleration of value, like I said, in what is clearly a hyper competitive world, how much, in your estimate, and considering you're at the heart of precision, how does it help foster not just, of course, you spoke about collaboration, but also the concepts of innovation? Because that by itself is also equally critical towards an acceleration of business value, isn't it? So, how do you kind of bring collaboration, the whole concepts of design approaches, and innovation together?
Yes, I think Arjun, that is most important. Innovation is the key to any element, and specifically as far as design is concerned, and within the industry that we are talking about, there are various industries where design has evolved as we move ahead and as we have taken it. Specifically, let's say with media entertainment and so on and so forth, right? The
Indeed.
quality of the content has changed drastically. Similarly, innovation is key, and innovation happens not only because of organizations. Innovation, of course, the innovation is supported by the precision infrastructure that are. Innovation is done by people, and innovation is done by organization. And today, that's what and I told you earlier, right? Innovation in design is important because Now the consumer is in front of every organization. And post pandemic, there are a lot many challenges that are coming up. For example, how would I make a design which is hygienic enough? Okay. Do I have to take into account the health perspective of the consumer for that matter? Something which is very, very simple. Let's say I am an organization that is into designing. For example, I'm just giving an example here. The metro, the metro collection units where you just put in the coins and you kind of go ahead. Is it hygiene enough to really use coins? How good is the design of the product that I'm doing and get an innovation so that it becomes seamless, contactless? I could probably use a face recognition, right? Because I'm registered in the database. So innovation now is becoming absolutely different in the pandemic, post-pandemic era. It's not only about ease of use, it's not only about efficiency and performance over a period of time. It is also putting the safety of the user in place. That's one point. So how do we ensure innovation happens? Organizations have to consider quite a few things. They have to consider, one is, what is the right design value that I have to have. Now, the design value is, of course, considering the fact that, yes, I'm going to have good engineers to do it, but is that engineer ready to understand the challenges that the organization faces? At the end of the day, why do we have to do innovation? Why do we have to be successful in getting a product as soon as possible to the market? It's because we want to ensure that not only our organization is profitable, but we are also socially responsible for whatever we do. So, both actually go hand in hand, design and innovation. Now, with that, the greatest innovation will happen only when we start collaborating, right? And when I say we, when I say we, it means our manufacturing industry starts collaborating in a normal fashion way. The earlier collaboration was meeting rooms, right? Today, that collaboration is not a meeting room. That collaboration will happen remotely. Now, with that in place, does Dell Precision take care of it? Yes, of course. Now, not all of them are going to use fixed, huge tower workstations. All of them are going to be mobile, right? I'm going to be a mobile user. I want to have the power of an equivalent tower workstation in my mobile workstation. It has to support two 4K displays and so forth. Uh, and more than that, it has to be clutter free, right? So the changes are there. I mean, how do I ensure that my system is set up in a clutter free environment? It's not going to be on an office desk. It's going to be on a desk which is in my home, right? So these are the few things. And how do I make our monitors absolutely good? For example, if it is 4K, so because it's not only about workstation, it's what you see. And that innovation is also key for us. See, it's innovation not only for our customers, it's innovation at Dell Precision also, which is very, very important so that the engineers and so that the users who start using the equipment feel that innovation. Their job is to go ahead and
True that,
design.
and I couldn't have. I mean, thank you. I think the narrative is very powerful because it's also important for me to ask you on behalf of this wonderful audience that's tuning in to hear us today about how perhaps mindset changes are equally important in embarking on what is clearly a very important journey. So, with your experience, Suhas, uh, how and what would be your essential guidance to IT practitioners, CIOs, IT leaders on how they should even approach this whole concept of manufacturing and engineering excellence, with design being central to the entire endeavor? How do you kind of advise people?
Yes, it is. It is quite challenging. Let me be very clear, Arjun. Here, we are talking about an industry which is very traditional in the way it's been functioning. It's not the new industry. It's been traditional in the way because manufacturing is very old, right? It's not that way. But look at the changes that have happened, and that change has happened not only because the organization wants to change. Let's take a good car. Okay. Now you compare it to the traditional standard oil-based vehicle and compare it to the new, which is electric-based. 100% electric vehicles. Why are they now coming in the market? Because that's a demand. And the design concept is no more traditional for an electric vehicle because there is no traditional engine block in it, right? So that design concept changes. So which means the organizations have to first adopt this change. Is that you are actually going to do something which was probably futuristic, thinking, oh, it's going to happen after 5 years down the line. That's not. It's probably going to happen next year, right? So that way one has to look at it. Second is from a people perspective. Most of them or at least a larger part of them are going to be millennials, right? So you're going to get a CAD designer, you're going to get an industrial designer who's coming out from the large base of design institutes, and some of them are really esteemed in India. They are absolutely, what I would say, independent, sometimes positively crazy in the stuff that they do. And that's what organizations today have to adopt their way and their style of working. Because at the end of the day, if they don't work well, your products are not going to get designed well.
Indeed, indeed.
Right? So, which means they need to have tools and products which are fast, efficient, good looking, kind of consumerish, if I might to put it that way, because they are used to it. And if they don't get what they want, they will probably move ahead, right? So everything that an organization does today, and it's not only with design, it's the entire business process of an organization essentially is changing. With digital transformation, I think the most key important aspect is human. And when you're going to have millennials working, they're going to be responsible for whatever innovation happens. So, which means you need to take care of them and be ready for the way they structure, the way they work. That's what I feel. These are a few important things that you need to adopt. Second, uh, one should not compromise on the actual investment that an organization does in specifically building up, let's say, a distributed, collaborated design lab, for example, because that does come at a decent investment. So, which means there has to be a right balance in the post-pandemic era for large organizations, IT divisions, to understand how do I create balance in investing, let's say, $100,000. Otherwise, I would have can I invest maybe $125,000 and create much better return of investment. So these are the few things that I believe, because the more distributed you go, the more investment is bound to happen.
Indeed,
So
indeed. Which is why it brings me to a very important question, really. Is that so? As you also fairly established the fact that uh, artificial intelligence is important, and increasingly so because of the volumes of data that is now available to us today.
oh,
Now, when you kind of look at the copious volumes of data at one end, and plus with precision having an underlying infra layer of artificial intelligence and machine learning, how, in your view, Suhas, from the point of view of Dell Technologies, does precision ensure, and I use the term ensure in a very considered manner, how does
mhm.
precision ensure superior business outcomes?
Okay, fine, Arjun. So one aspect I did touch upon the actual AI based tool that we have, which is the Dell Optimizer Precision. No doubt about it. It's an excellent tool for everyone to utilize it, and if there are people in the audience, they should use it. The second aspect that you touched upon, how AI and MLTL, if that one has to take it ahead, we have seen traditionally that data scientists work on a lot of data. Now there are certain verticals where it has been implemented effectively, like fraud detection in banking, financial institutions, proper insurance cover, and stuff like that. Doing things as fast as possible. Within this segment, it is going to be very important because the AI ML layer, which is going to be there, is of course going to be working on collecting a large amount of data. Now that large amount of data is obviously going to come from the field, either from the equipment which is placed in any of the larger places, or the equipment that is placed maybe on a car, right? There are so many sensors, there is Internet of Things, and hence the data is coming in. Now, when that data comes in, you're going to need people and users who can actually analyze that data in a system which is really capable of making that data work. And that's where the Dell precision comes in. So we have, so see, a configuration is multiple layers, right? You have starting from, let's say, 32 GB to maybe 1 TB of memory, right? Does a user require that? Does a user require that kind of platform complexities? So what we at Dell have done, at Dell Technologies have done, we have picked up certain platforms with precision where we've tested the AI tools and the applications that the data scientists would run. We've tested it, we verified it, and then what we've done is we've categorized them as specifically as data science workstations. So, which means if in any institution or any unit you're going to have data sciences working, that configuration is good enough to run whatever models you want to run. It could be using for data collection, it could be for analyzing, at the end point, applying it as an inference model. So we've got a host of platforms which are ready and capable to run these complex uh, machine learning AI based tools.
Indeed.
The second aspect is, of course, we do not we do not want at the same point in time to make our users start installing it. See, most of the time, what happens is it's a pretty complex stuff. It's not like probably installing an office productivity suite, right? This is slightly more complex. It relies on a different level of operating system. And the data scientist is anyway capable of doing it. Why does the user has to do it? So
Indeed.
what we've done is we've come up with a very simple solution, which may sound very small, but that is an innovation in a way. We've come up with an installation guide.
Oh,
It's simple. It's probably a 5-10 step process where it becomes simple for the data scientist to pick up those tools, download the tools, and install as the way it is functioning. It's simple. So we've reduced that complexity. And moving ahead, we're going to have far more superior collaborative efforts as far as the AI ML software tools are concerned. So you'll see a lot of stuff changing as well. So the user can be rest assured of using the systems because first it is qualified, tested, verified to run these applications.
very, very, very interestingly put. Because so as I do have a view on the time, and I know you've got a hard stop also. Is
Right.
I come to the final question, which is really, if you were to kind of sum up all of this together, my question to you really would be, in your given your experience, given that you're elbow deep with the kind of technology and innovation that is important at Dell Technologies, how what really can this audience, can industry, manufacturing and engineering primarily, expect from Dell in the coming weeks, months, maybe a year or so, without trying to look too far ahead, in terms of their ability to enhance their resilience as they move forward in a more confident manner? So, husband.
Okay, so I will take this beyond the precision level because today at Dell Technologies, frankly speaking, it's not only the Dell portfolio on precision. We're looking at edge to the core to the cloud, right? And that's the entire delivery which happens seamlessly for our large enterprises, for medium organizations, and small scale units as well. A precision is not going to be operating in an isolation. It's going to be operating in an environment which is going to be probably a data center environment. It's going to be have an enterprise level storage systems, and most importantly, as we move ahead, we're going to see security. And today, security is anyway paramount, because everybody is going to be working remotely. What are the various software tools? What is the cybersecurity level? How do we ensure that there is no endpoint threat that happens, right? So that is a development that is happening rapidly within Dell Technologies. And today there are certain aspects, something let's say AI MLGL, as data size grows, okay, there is a lot of performance requirement that happens. So which means today in the next 2 years, probably you're going to use a workstation, but maybe after that you would need an enterprise class infrastructure. So with us, with Dell, you do not restrict as a user only to precision. You then move on to the best level of infrastructure that we have across servers, across storage, across software suites and products and services. So that is what I see. Now, in terms of changes that are going to happen, there are decent lot many changes. We're going to have a series of product refreshes that are going to happen next year, and this is keeping in mind the fact that mobility is the key,
Is key.
right? Uh, are we going to see good in front of the screen experiences? We've already done that. In fact, we've come up with a so mobile workstations are generally heavier. I'm not sure if you, but many of them have used it because there's a lot of confidence. We came up with a mobile workstation which is 17-inch format and is the world's lightest mobile workstation. Okay, how are we going to get these innovations, make a product lighter, make it more durable, make the best in front of the screen experience, and yet deliver a fantastic level of performance? So that is the innovation that is happening. And surely in the span of the next 1 year, you will see a lot of product innovation coming in as far as Dell Technologies in precision is concerned.
Thank you. That was supremely articulated, Suhas. But that pretty much is what we have time for. It has been nothing short of fascinating and a delight to have heard you share your views and experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arjun. Thanks a lot. Nice to be here. Pleasure.
Lovely. And for the audience, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment.
That was truly insightful. Thank you, Mr. Vishwanathan and Mr. Pingat, for your valuable views and guidance. Dear delegates, before we formally conclude today's webinar session, please do fill out the feedback form and share your rating about today's webinar episode. That's all we have for you. We hope you enjoyed the first of two digital workforce collaboration solution webinar episodes that we brought you today. On behalf of Dell Technologies India and Strategic Solutions, I thank you for attending and our panelists and expert speakers for enriching us with their experiences and insights. Ladies and gentlemen, the next episode of this mini webinar series will be on the theme Education and Research Excellence for Virtual Campuses. We look forward to you joining us at 11:30 a.m. on 16 December 2020 from your favorite PC or smart device for a great online experience. Take care, stay safe, and may collaboration and teamwork take you places. This is Ushma Tyagi signing off on behalf of Strateging Solutions.